Good morning, everyone. Bodhi Tree community, and my name's Matt, also known as Hui Fong. I'm the person behind the Bodhi Tree community page here on Facebook, and I'd like to welcome you to our class today. And this is the second class, or the second, shall we say, course that we have had here at Bodhi Tree. But it's our first course that we have done here live on Facebook. So our earlier course that we had kind of near the end of last year was a in-person class that we had at National Taiwan University, which is where I am presently a visiting associate professor in the philosophy department doing Buddhist studies. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Oh, I see my friend Mika is online there. Hi, Mika. Okay. Welcome along. We've got a couple of people joining us so far. So just as we begin the session, just like to give you a bit of an introduction to myself and Bodhi Tree community here, first of all, before we get into the content. And that will also give us a bit of time for those people that might be joining us, whether they are joining us here from Taiwan or elsewhere in the world, to come on in. So I don't want to jump into the content too fast in case people miss the start. So as for myself, as I just mentioned, my name's Matt, or Matthew Osborne. In Chinese, my name is Hui Fong, and that's what I usually use here in Taiwan, and in the past also in Hong Kong and in China. Presently, I'm at National Taiwan University. Oh, I see we've got Terry online there. Hey, Terry. He's joining us with a group from the Philippines. Oh, and Tina, who I'm not sure where Tina is at the moment. I think somewhere in China. Hey there. Where was I? Okay, so just welcoming everyone in. Where was I? So at the moment I'm at National Taiwan University in the philosophy department, where I teach Buddhist studies. I do mainly Indian Buddhism, but I also do quite a bit of Chinese Buddhism as well. But I'm only here for a year. Oh, Mark's here as well. Hi, Mark. Good to see you. Welcome, everyone. But a bit of my background for Buddhism. Well, those friends who have just welcomed so far, you kind of know me, but maybe there's some other people that don't. And of course, because after we're live streaming, we will be keeping these videos up on the Bodhi Tree page. So maybe in the future, other people might watch them. So I'm originally a New Zealander. I sometimes say now that my passport's from New Zealand, but I haven't lived there for a long time. Hey, it's Nathaniel. Long time no see, Nathaniel. Coming in from the States. I'm guessing it's where Nathaniel is at the moment. Originally, I'm a New Zealander. I've had an interest in Buddhism since my teens, which comes through my uncle. I have got one very dear uncle who's been a long-term Buddhist practitioner. He's getting pretty old nowadays, and he's still very interested in Buddhist practice as well. Oh, and Paul as well. I haven't seen Paul for a long time. When did I last see you, Paul? And after I finished studying at university, where I originally studied engineering, my interest in Buddhism was growing more and more, and I decided not to become an engineer, but to pursue other things. Oh, we've got Varya as well. Hi Varya, how are you doing there? I think you're in Taiwan, back in Taiwan. I hope you're safe and well after your travels. And so I decided to pursue Buddhism in more depth, and I wanted to become a monk. And by some strange turn of fate, I ended up in South Africa, of all places, where I studied at the African Buddhist Seminary, which is a little place in the northern part of South Africa in Gauteng, out of a town called Bronkhorstspruit, where I studied there. Most of my classmates there, some were from South Africa, but I had a lot of classmates from Malawi, Tanzania, and lots of other countries. And we all studied there as novice monks. And the seminary there was set up by a Buddhist monastic community. It's based in Taiwan, called Foguangshan, and the temple there is Nanhua Temple. And so we studied there. Our course at the seminary was 3 years long. We studied a lot of stuff in 3 years. We did a lot of Chinese language as well, both contemporary, well, in English we call Mandarin, in Taiwan called Guoyi, and mainland, of course, Putonghua. And also, of course, classical Chinese for Buddhist texts and Buddhist studies. And after 3 years, graduated. I stayed on for another year at the meditation center that a venerable monk, a real Chan master, I must say, by the name of Venerable Hui Zhi, who was originally, he's from Taiwan, and he was originally the head of the meditation hall in Foguangshan Monastery here in Taiwan. He'd done a year of solitary retreat, and after that he was originally going to travel around the world and go to different branch temples of Foguangshan and teach meditation. Oh, we've got more people joining us, good to see. But apparently when he got to South Africa, he liked it so much he just basically just stayed there. And that was just at the start of my second year at the seminary, and he was also teaching classes and leading meditation classes on the weekend there, and also doing 7-day retreats. And I think at some point, so we were as students were participating in all of those, and at some point our regular translator for our 7-day retreats, who's an American by the name of Harold Lemke, we used to know him as Ma Lao Shi. He's now a monk in New York somewhere. He was unavailable, and so they were, who's going to translate? So I kind of put up my hand, and they got me to do it. And I started to do some translation work for Venerable Hui Zhi at the time. And after doing that for it was a couple of years, I guess, when I graduated, I then went off and behind the monastery there, Nanhua Temple, they were setting up a meditation center. So I went over there and helped him along with a couple of classmates, such as presently Sinton Dorje, Justin Eitrecht, who might be watching this somewhere, but he's in Spain at the moment, so it might not be a good time for him. And a couple of other classmates. We helped set that up, and it was a very good time to have some intense meditation training with what I can really say is a genuine modern Chan master. Oh, hi there, Margot from NTU. Welcome to joining us here. After a year there, doing more meditation training, and I also taught a couple of classes at the African Buddhist Seminary, from where I just recently graduated. And we were all still novices at that time, and the system was, if we wanted to take full ordination, then we'd have to come to Taiwan. So I sort of said, okay, time to make this next step. And so I came over to Taiwan right at the end of 2003. So I first went to South Africa at the start of 2000, and then 2003 into 2003 came to Taiwan. It was into Foguangshan main monastery, and as a noob, they put me into the men's college there. So it's Honglin Shuyan, and into the men's college. And it was kind of funny because at the college at the time, they had for most of the be they Taiwanese students or other ethnically Chinese students, such as a lot of students from Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore. They just had their regular classes, first, second, and third year. But they also had another another group of classes called the YG Banga, so like the international class for some international students, and there are a lot of monastics here. A lot of them were just novices. I don't know, just novices. A lot of them were young novices from Thailand in particular, and some other students from different places in India. But they actually, because they already had they had the difference because those international students needed to learn Chinese before they could go to the regular classes. But I already had those skills, so they put me into first year. But because actually I'd already done like 3 years at the African Buddhist Seminary, it was kind of a bit weird going back to like first year again. So after only 6 months, and they just said, okay, like you don't really need to be here. Early graduation. So I kind of ended up doing 3 years in South Africa, and then another half year, another semester there in the monastery in Taiwan. And but they kept me at the college as a teacher because they also needed some people that could teach some classes in English, like English Buddhism classes, and also spent a lot of time doing a lot of translation. Fogwan Shan is a huge organization, like lots of different departments, and it's also very international, so they needed a lot of material to be translated, either written stuff or also translating for Dharma talks by some of the senior monastics there. So I did that for about another, how long? 6 months, 12 months. And then, hey, Jing Jing. Sorry, I'm not going off topic. Just got Jing Jing's joining us from LA. How are you doing there in LA? Hope your lockdown is going well, everyone. I don't know if you're using the term lockdown. Your stay home to save lives. And so then after that, I went with one of my classmates. That's one of my classmates from Taiwan. We were assigned to a role in China. We were helping to supervise the building of a Buddhist library for the Jianzhen Buddhist College, which is going to be an international foreign language Buddhist college in Yangzhou in Jiangsu in China. Spent a year there overlooking and overseeing some engineering work, and then I applied to do graduate studies in Hong Kong at Hong Kong U. So from there went to Hong Kong and studied for a master's degree in Buddhist Studies at the Center for Buddhist Studies at Hong Kong U, and then following that just went straight into a PhD program. So under the system that they've got there is only actually 5 years for Masters and PhD. Those of you from North America will be raising your eyebrows at that, I'm sure. But anyway, so studied there, and now while I had a lot of skills and experience with Chinese texts, just due to the focus there was more of a focus on Indian Buddhism at Hong Kong U, but so a lot of my work that I was doing was using Chinese texts, like ancient Chinese translations of classical Indian Buddhist texts, and in particular the Prajna Paramita family of texts. That's what I did my graduate studies and my dissertation on. But then, so sort of early Indian Buddhism. But then the fact that at the time I was still, a monk within Fogwan Shan, which is a very contemporary Taiwanese Chinese Buddhist community. I've also got a lot of experience with that as well. So after I finished there, came back to Taiwan, where I was teaching at Fogwan University up in Ilan in Taiwan, and yeah, just teaching those kinds of materials. And while I was teaching there, I was doing a lot of like sorry, I'm just getting something coming through here. A lot of there's like Buddhist studies classes, but also meditation classes. And so what we're going to be doing here today, and for this whole course, is going to be focusing on meditation practices, and it's based on pretty much some of the meditation classes that I used to teach at Fogwan U. Now, if you've already seen like the little outline for the course that we're doing here, we're going to be using an English translation of a very famous Chinese text, which is usually in Chinese we just call it 小止观, which would literally be sort of small, calm, and insight. So it comes from the Tiantai tradition. So Tiantai school is one of the classic schools of Chinese Buddhism. It's one of the earlier Chinese schools, we could say. And it's more famous, the Tiantai school is more famous for its teachings on the Lotus Sutra. That's usually what people think, oh, Tiantai teaches the Lotus Sutra, and that is true. But often I think it's easy to kind of overlook the fact that a lot of the core teachings from the Tiantai tradition are also very practical. They're focusing on calm and insight meditation. So this idea, in East Asia, when you say calm and insight, 止观, people really quickly think about, oh, Tiantai, like this whole idea of calm and insight meditation is a Tiantai idea. But actually that idea doesn't start with Tiantai. It comes from early Indian Buddhism, and as far as we know about the teachings of the Buddha himself, shamatha vipassana is a really early and integral part of Buddhist practice. So these two terms, so calm and insight, are roughly equivalent to what we might call meditation and wisdom, samadhi and prajna. Now, normally in our whole Buddhist practice, we don't just have these two, right? We have, if we want to break up the path into kind of three basic features, we've got shila, so kind of meditative discipline or ethics, like the 5 precepts or 10 novice precepts or monastic precepts, bodhisattva precepts. From there, we work into calming and focusing the mind, so samadhi or dhyana, and then on that foundation, we can then make the step into wisdom or insight. And from that insight, we use that insight in order to cut through afflictions and achieve the goals of what we're looking for in Buddhist practice, liberation. Okay. Okay, so we've got a message here from Mika. So interesting to know where these particular teachings originate from. Okay, Chinese Buddhist texts are not yet very familiar to me. Okay, and so Mika comes from a Tibetan tradition. Okay, thank you for that. Thanks for the feedback. Anyone else, if you've got any feedback, please just throw it in the comment section. This whole online teaching thing is very new to me. At NTU, due to the coronavirus, we've actually just started a lot of our classes. Not all of them have been going online as well. But my big undergrad class, which this semester I'm looking at some Buddhist meditation texts, but also some other Indian, like sort of Hindu, Brahmanic meditation texts as well, or teachings. We've been looking at Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutras, Satipatthana Sutra from Buddhism. So that's all going online, and it was literally this week that I did my first online class. So it's all very new to me, and I find that unlike when you're teaching live, you can't see people. So any comments that you have are really appreciated. And then, it shouldn't just be me talking. It should be a bit of back and forth between us. So where was I? Okay, so calm and insight in this particular text. So in the Tiantai tradition, there are usually said to be 4 main meditation texts. Now, one of them is the most famous one, which is Mohe Ziguan. So that's Mohe, so Maha, the larger teaching on calm and insight. And it's a very large text, and it's very sort of, it's a real classic of early Chinese Buddhist meditative theory and practice. And it's interesting because it takes a lot of stuff. It's in many ways very Indian, but then it's also trying to express it in Chinese because it's composed in China. So it's a really important bridge in that way. And the one that we're looking at today is the smaller text. It's like a simplified version, a compacted version, but the content is pretty much the same. So the name of the text, the Chinese usually say 小止观. Its full name in Chinese is a little bit different. the full name. What is the full name in Chinese, right? 修习止观坐禅法要. And so I know it's a bit of a mouthful. And I like to share with you. So if you want to come and join us and looking at the text, I'd like to share with you some links. So first link I'm going to give you is a link to, well, all the stuff I'm going to give you is a link to a website called Calavinka. So I just sent you a link there. That's not the home page, but if you go to that link and up near the top there, there's kind of on the right after FAQ, there's Dharma Jewels. And then if you scroll through here, scroll down a little bit to about the, I don't know, the 5th text, the essentials of Buddhist meditation. So this whole page has a whole bunch of PDF links. It's just chapter by chapter of the text. So go to the essentials of Buddhist meditation, and then you can just hit chapter 1 there and download chapter 1. And that's what we're going to be looking at. And then next week we'll be doing chapter 2, and then sort of like that going through. We probably won't finish the whole thing, but we'll kind of make a start. Now, while you're doing that, I just would like to say a few words about this Calavinka site and why I've chosen this particular version of the text. So the Calavinka site, Calavinka is like it's a what do you call it? Self-publishing, like little Dharma publisher, and it's run by a venerable monk by the name of Dharma Mitra or Venerable Heng Shou. Venerable Heng Shou is one of, he's American, he's based in the US, near Seattle somewhere. He is or was a disciple of the Chinese Chan master, Master Xuan Hua, who's a really important figure for Chinese Buddhism in the West, particularly in North America, and was also a highly renowned Chan master, meditation master. So Venerable Heng Shou was one of his first group of 5 American disciples, I think back in like 1968 or something, back in that time. And so he became a monk back then and trained and studied with Master Hua. He also spent some time here in Taiwan doing studies for a PhD at Furen University. And one of the good things about him is he's got like a really good knowledge of classical Chinese, not just someone who's kind of learnt it academically, but really deeply embedded within the Chinese Buddhist traditions. And then he's also got some serious meditation practice as well, and having such an amazing teacher. And so he has these translations. Now, he puts these up free, so you can download these for free. But if you want to, or if you want to support this venerable translator monk, you can definitely order some of his books. You should be able to get them on Amazon, so you can go in and get them on Amazon, and they're pretty cheap, to be honest. They're not like regular Dharma books, which cost you an arm and a leg. They are really good value. And then you can also support him as well. The full versions will give you English, they're like facing pages English, and then the Chinese. So if you're learning Chinese for Buddhism, they're also very valuable for that regard as well. So he just basically devotes his life to doing these translations. He otherwise lives a very hermetic lifestyle. And he produces good quality work. So that's why I'm picking these documents for what we're going to look at today. Okay, so that's a little bit about the text. Now, the way that we're going to run the class is, as you can see from the name of this class, I'm calling it like, what do I call it? Study and meditation. So rather than just being like a meditation class, which live streaming meditation sounds a bit, could be very boring. To make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more, not just interactive, but I think meditation, there is theory to meditation, and understanding the principles and the ideas behind meditation will make your meditation practice far, far more effective. It really is quite important. Now, I do know that not just in the West, but in some other places, there's a number of people that will just sort of say, oh, it's not about the theory, you know, or it's not just reading books and not just about theory. You just have to do it. You just have to do it to experience it for yourself. But it's always a question of when you say just do it, like, so what do you actually do? It's not just like sitting on your butt. You know, as the old joke says, I mean, a chicken sits on their butt sitting on an egg. It doesn't lead them to enlightenment. You are doing some stuff. It's not the things that you're doing with your body, but of course your physical posture is also part of that. But Buddhist practice, if you look at whether you're looking at the Eightfold Path, which starts with right view and right intention, and that's necessary to make all the other elements of the Eightfold Path right, you know, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation. Or you look at, say, the Mahayana system of the six perfections, right? Generosity, ethics, patient tolerance, effort, meditation, and wisdom. What makes all six of those perfections is wisdom. Now, of course, wisdom or right view isn't a book-based thing, but there are ideas that are in there, and we can't just sort of say, oh, Buddhism doesn't believe in anything. There's sort of no right or wrong in Buddhism. It's just whatever feels good, do it, man. No, Buddhism doesn't quite work like that. I'm sorry. So we're going to do, so for each session, we're going to do a bit of like reading. We're not going to like literally just read line by line, but we're going to kind of go through the text. And then we're going to use that as our basis for then a meditation session. Before we do the meditation session, we're going to get up in the middle, do a few stretches to loosen up the body and limber up the body. Then do some meditation, and there, and then we're going to have a bit of Q&A, a bit of discussion, a bit of sharing before we wrap up the session. And the whole session should take us an hour and a half. So on my time, we're starting at 9, and then we go through until 10:30. Okay, I've got a comment here from Mika again. I'm here for the theory and provided perspectives. Okay, I have been meditating for a decade or so already. Study enriches things. Very true. Yeah, it does. It's very valuable and very much part of it. The whole idea of kind of like theory and practice is that although these are kind of two separated things, and it's all about the practice. You just need to practice, and you don't need theory. I don't think it quite kind of cuts it. The theory is part of the practice. Understanding the theory is itself part of the practice. Okay, so I hope you've managed to download those texts. Have you managed to get a copy of those texts? I'm going to pop up my screen here and just see if I can see what's going on here. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm just, as I said, I'm new to this and I'm just experimenting on my screen, what's going on. Okay, now, where were we? So, whether you've got it in your browser or you've downloaded the file, let's open up that chapter 1 of the text and just kind of have a little look. Now, just to first give you an overview of the whole chapter, unfortunately with the file you've got, it doesn't have like an overview of the whole thing, but it's important to just keep it all in context. So in this first chapter, the first chapter is called Fulfillment of the Prerequisite Conditions. Okay, so it's really talking about the things that you need to set up and get ready before you do meditation. And again, this is another important thing to consider. I mean, in theory, you can kind of practice anywhere. You know, people like to say, oh, you should be able to practice on a busy street. You should be able to practice anywhere. Yeah, like that's true. But like anything, having the right environment and setting up other conditions and being prepared will make your practice far more effective. So this chapter is all about setting up those prerequisite conditions. Second chapter then starts to really go internally. So the first chapter of these requisite conditions are mainly external things, external preparation. And then in the second chapter, then we start to get into dealing with mental states and so forth. So what are these requisite conditions? There are basically 5 of them. Well, there's 5, yeah, there's 5 of them, 5 categories. The first one is related to the precepts, so that is referred to as observing the precepts purely. So that's, as I said earlier, the first training, so Shila, ethics, or might say ethical discipline, ethical restraint. The second requisite condition is ensuring adequacy of clothing and food. So that's just, we might not think about these things, but I mean, clothing seems pretty straightforward, but you sometimes see people come to meditation class wearing like tight jeans, and they sit down and their knees are like, they can barely sit still because the clothing is inappropriate. And food can have a really big influence in diet, not just what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat. It will have an effect on your body and also on your mental states. The third point is obtaining easeful and quiet dwelling. So where, the location of your meditation practice. And again, people might say, oh, well, you should be able to practice anywhere, any location. Yeah, kind of in theory, maybe so. But for beginners, at least, having a quiet environment can be very, very useful. Once you develop some good skill, then it's easier to get your mind in the groove and in the zone, even when there's distractions going on you. But otherwise, it's good to train in a nice, quiet, and appropriate location. The fourth one is putting responsibilities to rest. So it means, getting rid of all those other distractions. Quit your job, abandon everything, sell your car and your house, go live in the mountains. The text actually probably would say something like that. And it's worth keeping in mind, this text is, to be honest, it's not designed for the regular lay practitioner. I think most classic Buddhist meditation literature isn't designed for that either. They're designed for this kind of monastic, what we might call sort of elite Buddhist practitioners. But we can still take the principles of it. We can still learn the basic gist, the basic ideas, and apply those. So it talks about, basically simplifying your life. Don't be so busy so that you can free up time for your practice. And then the fifth point is drawing near to good spiritual friends. So not just a teacher, but also co-practitioners. Okay, so those are the 5 points, and let's just go through some of those ideas in general. If you have a look in the document, so I think the file I'm looking at now is the same one that you have got. Just let me bounce back here. Okay, so what's that first one? That first condition is talking about ethics. So like begins. Now, one who is resolved to begin practice and who desires to cultivate calm and insight must first fulfill 5 conditions related to outward circumstances, so these externals. The first is the requirement that one maintain purity and practice of the moral precepts. This is as stated in a sutra. It is in dependence upon and because of these moral precepts that one succeeds in developing the dhyana absorptions as well as the wisdom which puts an end to suffering. Therefore, the bhikshu should be pure in upholding the precepts. So as I said, this is originally directed at bhikshu, so monastics, but the principles are still the same. Now, why is it important to uphold the precepts? Well, one of the, there's a couple of reasons. One is simply that if we're engaging in behaviors that are harming or hurting others, it has a sort of an effect of the environment around us and the social interactions that we have with other people. It creates tension within those contexts and within those relationships. And those kinds of tensions, I'm not talking about like flaring up and arguing and yelling at people and having a fight. But even this kind of low-level tension that we might not notice, but when it comes to meditation practice, that kind of tension is like low-level background radiation that just keeps our mind from being able to really calm itself and focus itself. We've always got this little like sense of worry about like, oh, you know, what's that person going to do to me, or that person doesn't like me or hate me because I've done something to harm them or to hurt them. So this is definitely a thing. This is also related to one of the what's called the 5 hindrances, restlessness and remorse. And now, one of the things that the text here talks about, if you go on to the second page, or it's like page 4 of the document, sorry, is it talks about repentance. So one of the suppositions is when it comes to ethics, there's basically only 2 types of people. There's people that have, you know, there's two ways to achieve pure precepts. One is you've never broken any precepts in your life. So you've never not offended anyone. You've never transgressed against anyone. You've never lied to anyone. You've never cheated anyone. You've never hurt or harmed anyone. That's the first type of person. How many people are like that? Like 1 in a million, maybe. And the second category of people like me, people maybe like you, are those that, yeah, we have done unethical things before, but there's this possibility that we can rectify that situation, and we do that through the practice of repentance. So it talks for a fair bit here about different forms of repentance and different levels. At the bottom of the page here, it gives some contemplation. So, for example, first develop a clear understanding and belief in cause and effect, and give rise to profound fearfulness of retribution. So if we understand that Buddhist principle of cause and effect, right? Karma, if we have some karmic action, there's going to be some result that comes about from that. And that should remind us, like if we have that idea in our mind, we're probably far less likely to commit these negative and harmful actions in the first place. We think like, why would I want to do that bad thing? Because it's just going to come back and bite me on the ass at some time in the future. So this is the first 3 points there, right? We have this idea of a deep sense of shame and dread of blame. So, Tan Hui. Okay. Oh, I see we've got somebody else online. Oh, we have Venerable Kidrup. Oh, so only Venerable Kidrup is within the Tibetan Geluk tradition. He's presently studying at University of Toronto, old friend of mine. Nice to see you. I will join in on sessions when I can, Matt, after papers for school are in. Okay, well, you do your homework first, and when you're free, come and join us. And I would love to have you join us, Venerable. And you can maybe give us some comparative feedback. Oh, how's your Lam Rim classes going? I wish I could kind of join that too, to be honest. Okay. Fourth point is seek out a method. So this is referring to, in Chinese Buddhism, there are lots of repentance practices. And some of these are very major. There's like huge ceremonies. It can be an hour. They can be several hours long. Now, we don't necessarily have to do that. But the next points are the key ones, right? Reveal and confess prior offenses. So we have to admit our mistakes. We have to, number 6, make a kind of a resolve to not continue to do that. And then over the next page, resolve to protect Dharma. And then the next points are more Mahayana points, kind of make this vow that we're going to do our best to not just liberate ourselves, but others. And these are the key things, right? So it's not to kind of dwell in guilt and, oh, I'm an evil sinner, but to kind of recognize, yeah, we all make mistakes, but I'm going to make this, I see the fault in that, and I'm going to make a resolve to not continue to do that in the future. And it talks then a little bit about some of the, what are called the signs that come with repentance practice. Now these are, in the text here, it's more referring to some of these larger, really quite detailed repentance rituals that were used in Chinese Buddhism. And to be honest, in a way, they can be like very profound meditations themselves, meditations on cause and effect, and in particular on the harm that can come from negative actions that come about from our craving, our aversion, our ignorance, and so forth. And it has these kinds of these signs that come from this repentance. If we can go through that and really change our minds on this very deep level, it can sometimes result in these kinds of, you might want to say like almost like visionary experiences, but we might want to say it's what's happening is we're releasing this very negative state deep within our mind, this kind of very negative energy. And when that's released from us, we will have some very wonderful and very pleasant experiences. They might be pleasant dreams or something, as if some burden has been lifted from us, some cloud has been blown away, that kind of experience. So now you don't have to have this, and we shouldn't be seeking that kind of mystical vision, but the text does mention that, and it can be a sign that our repentance practice has kind of hit this point where, like, yeah, that issue that we were trying to repent has been seriously changed for the better. Okay, so repentance is a big one there. Our second point, so on the bottom of page 6, is talking about adequacy of clothing and food. Now again, the text here is originally talking to monastic practitioners, and so it gives a couple of different kind of levels of fulfilling this requisite. The first one is given by, like, it says, the great master of the snowy mountains. So this is referring to the Buddha, the snowy mountains being the Himalayas. That's literally kind of what the word Himalaya means adorned with snow. And so he has this single robe of coarse hemp cloth, and he just goes and begs for food. Or in classical India, they wouldn't even beg for food; they would just eat the gleanings from the field, like windfall fruit. Because windfall fruit, you're not even damaging the plants or the trees by picking off fruit or leaves from it. That's kind of this ultimate level. But for us, we might want to work on a kind of a more basic level and tone it down a few notches. I'd say the simplest thing is just to think about what clothing, for example, is for. It's to protect our body. It's to keep us warm, warm from the cold, protected from the sun. We don't have to spend so much time trying to dress up and look fancy. I think I'm kind of naturally like that anyway, maybe a bit too much. But some people do spend a huge amount of time worrying about their clothing and trying to project this external beautiful appearance. But our focus is going to be more on, let's not worry so much about that. Let's try to change ourselves from the inside rather than from the outside. So simplicity, but also not just simplicity. Something's got to be comfortable for meditation practice, particularly for sitting meditation practice. So you want something that's fairly loose. There's one teacher, I'm trying to think who kind of made an interesting comment. This is a comment back from like the 70s, talking about like people's clothing and kind of their temperament. Some people like really like tight clothing, and maybe that signifies that they're kind of a bit, I don't know, a bit like uptight or tense. And other people prefer loose clothing, which leads to a more relaxed physical state, but also perhaps a calmer and more relaxed mental state. Now, I don't know if we can say that these two things like just totally line up like that, but if you've ever tried meditating in tight clothing, it's not pleasant. Your body will be restricted, particularly around the knees, around the hips, buttocks, also around your waist for your breathing and chest, and also up around your collar here too. There is a reason why, people often talk about ties as being kind of like a corporate noose. It's not good to restrict and restrain the flow of blood and air around your neck. So be comfortable and simple. So that's clothing. The food-wise, again, food can be very important for practice. Simple food, healthy food. Now, I think in ancient times, pretty much, we can't say that all food was healthy. I'm sure there's probably lots of bad, semi-rotten, old food. It's probably, won't be healthy at all. But they didn't have, of course, a lot of processed junk food like we do now. Chinese Buddhism, of course, has for a long time advocated vegetarianism, and there are definite advantages in that. Meat in your body will produce certain types of toxins that in general vegetarian food won't, and this will have effect on your physical body and effect also on your state of mind, because your body and your mind are not two separate, totally independent things. So eat healthy. Try to be vegetarian if you can. Get a good balanced diet though too. Just being vegetarian in and of itself isn't enough. You gotta eat healthily. Make sure you get enough of your basic food groups, different things, vitamins, minerals. You know the idea. And also related to this is, and we're going to see this later in a couple of weeks, food with related to the amount and when you meditate. For most people, like meditating on a full stomach, bad idea. People are just like, they just go to sleep. For most people, but that does differ. I myself am a bit different in that regard. I tend to meditate not too bad on a full stomach, but that's because my mental state is maybe a bit, and that food calms it down to a good level. Other people, if your mind is normally pretty stable, the food will actually make us a bit drowsy, and that's for various reasons. Physiologically, blood flow going down to digest food in the stomach and taking it away from the head, changes in blood sugar levels, and these kinds of things. So you don't want to meditate on a full stomach, but you also don't want to meditate when you're too hungry either. Blood sugar's too low, it's not good. If you're hungry, your whole body can't get into kind of a stable state. And we kind of know this principle from the Buddha's middle way, right? He practices forms of asceticism for 6 years, he starves himself, but he can't actually meditate, and then when he takes food, not too much, but enough to keep himself healthy, then he's got the right mental state that the Buddha can practice meditation, and he goes on to become the Buddha. So clothing and food, and finding that right balance there is the second point. Okay, what's our next point? Point C is the dwelling, obtaining easeful and quiet dwelling. And again, it gives different levels. The ultimate is the sort of like, literally kind of like a cave or a little meditation hut up in the woods. Traditionally, Indian Buddhist texts would say you want to be out of earshot of the shepherds and cattle herders. So you're close enough to the village that you can go in and get your food, but you're far enough away that you're not distracted by the sounds in the village. Now, that sounds lovely, and if any of you are up in a nice, quiet, maybe country location, perfect. For those of us who are in the city, not quite so easy. Cities are noisy places. But what you can do, of course, is choose the best time of the day to do your meditation practice, where it's a bit quieter. Another thing for the location, of course, is keeping it simple. In your meditation space, try not to have it too cluttered with too many things. If it's nice and simple, when our eyes see different objects, they stimulate different thoughts. You see, oh, I see the computer over there, and I start to think like, oh, I've got a report to do. I see some books over there. I start to think about the books. I see, right, you get the idea? So when things are simple, if you've got a location, like, for example, if you could sit down, you maybe see behind me here, I've got this tanka, sorry, wrong shoulder. We've got this tanka on the wall. So if you've got a location where if I were to turn around and face the wall and all I can see is a very nice, simple wooden wall, well, it's actually like a wardrobe, because wood. It's kind of calming and pleasing, but it doesn't make me think of a bunch of stuff. And then the things that I can see are things that are going to direct my mind towards the practice rather than away from the practice. So your location isn't just kind of some, quiet and simple, but also simplicity that stops our mind from being too distracted. The next point is point D, putting responsibilities to rest. So simplifying our lives. Again, it lists a bunch of things. Cessation of livelihood. Quit your job. Drop out of school. Okay. No, not for you people. Don't do that. Don't just drop it all. If you're going to drop everything, I'm not going to say you absolutely should not do that. If you're going to do it properly, and don't do it hastily and then get yourself in a horrible mess. Slowly make your life simpler. Step by step. Do it in a responsible and organized fashion. Likewise for relationships. Now I know a lot of times we're told, oh, relationships are very important. Oh, I get a message here from Mika. Taiwanese garbage trucks while meditating. You can meditate to that little funky tune that they play, Green Sleeves or whatever it is that they play. And then another comment, how are our garbage collectors, sisters and brothers? Thank you very much. Yeah, sure, that's what we can do. We can, like, garbage truck people, you're taking our trash, you're making our streets and homes cleaner. Thank you. Thank you for your job. Okay, and then let them drive away and go back to your practice. Okay, back to the putting responsibilities to rest. I think it's not so much ending all relationships, but simplifying relationships and cultivating healthy relationships rather than ones that are kind of just a distraction, relationships that just create agitation. Now, it is important or worth noting here that if your path is the Bodhisattva path, and your practice is therefore not just for yourself but for other people, we might feel there's a bit of an issue here. On one side, we want to, we might know people that have problems or issues in life. We want to help them, but then all that kind of stress might be difficult for a meditation practice. So this is touched in another text that I love very much, Data Dulun, which is a commentary on the perfection of wisdom. It gives a short but simple answer. It's to say we maintain that intention to help those people, but we must also recognize that in order to help them, we need to make ourselves strong first. We need to make ourselves wise and healthy so that we can do that. So we can take like a temporary break to work on our meditation practice. And from the calm, the clarity, and the insight that we get from the practice, we can then return back and help them, hopefully in a more positive, in a more effective and beneficial way. So that's one way of looking at this issue of cessation of relationships. Other things, cessation of activities, of study. Again, these are all just issues of being overly busy. Busyness, so much busyness. We are encouraged so much to fill our lives with lots of activities. But sometimes we also need to take a break. It's not just about stuffing a whole bunch of stuff into our minds and making our minds very cluttered. You also need time to kind of stop and use the meditation to defragment our otherwise scattered mental states. And then the last point, point E, so the fifth of our prerequisites, is drawing near to good spiritual friends. Now, there are three types of spiritual friends here. Now, this term spiritual friend in Pali, Kalyana Mitra, Sanskrit Kalyana Mitra, in Chinese usually translated as 善知识. has a range of meanings, and it's the term itself in English, you have to watch it. When we think of like spiritual friends, usually in English we think of friends, we think of our peers, for example. So if we were at a Dharma center, we might think of like, other fellow practitioners. But originally this term, Kalyana Mitra, refers just as much to what we might call teachers. And if we look in Buddhist texts, kind of often the text will talk about, if it talks about the Kalyana Mitra or a Kalyana Mitra in the singular, it might be referring to the Buddha or one's teacher. So it's not just about kind of our peers, but also our guides. So it mentions that here in these different ones. The first category of good spiritual friends are externally protective. So if we're on a retreat, for example, or if we're doing some activities at the temple, if you're on a retreat, there's people that are not in the retreat, but they are supporting the retreat. They're the ones in the kitchen cooking. They're the ones, at the door making sure no one comes and disturbs us, and so on and so forth. These people are super important. A lot of people are in a rush to I want to be in the retreat, and forget that we also need to support other people who want to do practice as well. It takes a bit more of a mature practitioner to kind of recognize that. It's not always about me. I want to do the retreat. I want to help others to do retreat as well. So this is one category. The second one, here in the text, it's called identical practice. It means like our peers, like our classmates or something like that. Those are kind of about the same stage of practice. We might be engaged with the same teacher, for example. Sometimes we refer to these as Dharma brothers or sisters. And these people are very important because we often spend more time with our fellow practitioners, our Dharma brothers and sisters, than we do with our teachers. And this is definitely something worth noting. In a healthy environment, in a healthy Dharma environment, your fellow practitioners will be mutually supporting of each other. Unhealthy environments, you might get rivalry, people being played off against each other, people trying to get all the attention from the teacher, that kind of thing. That's not a healthy environment. You might have what looks like the world's greatest teacher, but if that relationship with our fellow practitioners isn't good, the end result is not going to be ideal at all. And so a good teacher, so the third category, the instructive good friend, the instructor, the guide, the teacher, the guru, the acharya, lao shi, whatever you want to call it, of course, super important. Just as the Buddha provides the teachings for us, a good Dharma teacher provides that role model of what we can do and what we can be, provides us with good guidance. And together, all these three categories form then our practice community, from those that are kind of more external and supporting it. And that first category of the externally protected, that also includes a lot of say bigger organizations, smaller ones, temples, monasteries, will have donors. You won't see them there very often, but sometimes these people are providing everything that keeps that Dharma center running. Don't forget them as well. Our day-to-day fellow practitioners, and then our teachers, who we may not quite have that much contact with, but they are very important. And maybe that last point, it's also worth noting, so I think there's a lot of, we all want to have the best teacher. Everyone would love to have sort of like, to be able to say, oh, I am a student of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I am a student of Venerable Master Xing Yun. I am a student of Master Thich Nhat Hanh. That's wonderful. But for a lot of people, do we have the opportunity, if you say I'm a disciple of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, do we have opportunities to, regularly get personal instruction from him? that might be a bit difficult. So don't overlook good teachers just because they're not famous, just because they don't have a range of a dozen books that they've written and so on and so forth. Really spend the time to see the teacher, see their qualities, see the environment that they create around them, because sometimes a kind of an unknown teacher that we can have good contact with and who understands us well can be far more beneficial in the long run than someone who's very famous but is kind of up there in the clouds while we are over here. And there's not much connection. Okay, and so last comment there for our text. So at this point, we've kind of wrapped up this chapter. So let's just very quickly go over those essentials. In chapter 1 here, the fulfillment of prerequisite conditions. So the first one, our own ethics. Keep our ethics good, and if we can't, repent and make a change for the better. The second one, food and clothing. Keep it simple, keep it healthy. The third one, our easeful and quiet dwelling. Again, keep it simple, keep it quiet, and like a good safe space for you to do your practice. Putting responsibilities to rest. Simplify your life. Simplify the unnecessary busyness that creates mental and emotional clutter. And lastly, draw near to good friends. Surround yourself with good people that are going to support you and help you and guide you on the path. The other people that won't help you and guide you, we will get to them. We will help them, but we need to do our own work first. So these are the basic 5 points for today. Now I do recognize that today, according to my original schedule for what we were going to cover, let me pop back here, I kind of have definitely left less time for meditation, but we haven't actually covered the kinds of meditation material in the text yet because it's just the first class. Oh, we've got another message here. Oh, hello, hello. Long time no see. Elena, long time no see. How are you over there in, I'm assuming you're still in California. Another comment from Mika, I'm happy that my root guru is not famous. I can write to him anytime when I have questions and also know him informally, not just as a dude on the throne. Thank you, that's a good example there, a good point. Okay, so our time is now, we're about after 10 o'clock. What I was going to originally do is, I wasn't going to do the big self-intro at the start, of course. So we do the text and then we do a few stretches and then do a bit of meditation. I haven't given any meditation instruction, but maybe we can just stand up because we've already been, well, I've been sitting for an hour. Do a little bit of stretching. We can sit back down and just sit quietly for a few minutes and reflect. You want to call it a meditation or just a kind of a reflection on what we've talked about today. For maybe 10 minutes, and then we can have a bit of discussion, Q&A at the end. How about that? Okay, we've got a comment here. I'm good. It's wild times. Yeah, these are pretty wild times indeed. I feel very fortunate to be in Taiwan at the moment because it's probably one of the safest places to be at the moment. And for those of you who are elsewhere, I just hope you're staying safe. I hope you've got all the things that you need, be it food or other health supplies, and you're keeping in touch with people and staying safe and looking after them and supporting one another. Okay, so now when I stand up in a second, I'm going to have to move this camera because at the moment I'm sitting on the floor. So I'm going to have to move it up, and so the camera is going to go all crazy for a second. So just bear with me, and we're just going to do some very simple stretches, and then we're going to just come back and sit. So I hope you have space to stand up. Okay, here we go. Come here, little camera. Oh, ooh. Don't fall down on me. I'm going to check and make sure. Oh my goodness. Have to check the height of this. How's the height on that? Maybe I can drop it down a fraction. Maybe I can drop it down a fraction. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, so some stretches. Now, you probably can't see my legs there, but usually for sitting meditation, I do like to do some stretches beforehand for myself or in classes. And if our time is limited, if our time is more, we can do a whole hour of yoga asanas, if you like. That would be perfect. But if you don't have that much time, a couple of key things to hit, and I like to think of it as like the key joints. So the first one, of course, is going to be, I don't know if you can see this here, our ankles, then our knees, and then our hips are going to be the key ones to hit in terms of the joints, because these are the points where most people have physical discomfort when they sit, for beginners at least. Ankles, knees, hips. And then around the chest in particular, opening up and stretching. That's going to help us with our breathing. So let's just do that very simply. So the first one, I'm just going to have to explain because you can't actually see my feet at the moment. Maybe I can drop this camera down a fraction more. I don't know how that's going to work. Cut my head off, cut my feet off. Okay, never mind. So just put like the ball of your foot on the ground and then like roll with your ankle. All right, so like the ball of your foot and then you're rolling. And when we're doing each of these stretches, put your mental attention into that body part. So feel like the toes being stretched and your ankle being stretched. You go back the other way. Really loosen it up, open up an ankle and foot there. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Okay, you can change your other foot. So go one way. Tension into your ball of your foot, your toes and your ankle. Really open it right up. And then back the other way. Back the other way. Okay. Okay, good. So that's the first kind of joint area around your ankles and feet. I get a lot of cramp in the sole of my foot. So also try to really open it up there as well. Next one is just your hands on your knees and just do like circles with your knees, come up straight and do circles. And again, put your focus into your knees. You have to be gentle on your knees when you meditate. It's easy to do damage to the ligaments and tendons of kneecaps. Back the other way. I hope you all have space to do this. I'm not sure where you are sitting or located as you're watching this live stream. Maybe some of you are lying in bed or something. You just wave your legs in the air. Okay. And then the next one, so circles, and then hands on knees, and then we just like squat down. And then up, and down, up, down. Just slowly warm them up. Okay. Next one, so that's the knees, second. So ankles, knees, hips. So feet like a little bit apart, just the usual hands on hips. And then circles at the waist. Look, come forward. And again, put your attention into like your hip joint and your waist. And as you go around, feel the stretch. So of course your stretching point is going to move with each position of the circle. Really loosen up your hips there. Back the other way. Now, later on, we will have a whole session that deals with like the physical body and that kind of thing. We'll talk about that in more detail when we get there. Some places have a sort of some places that teach meditation have an attitude, oh, meditation is just the mind, it's not about your body, you don't need to stretch. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, it really helps. So that's 3, ankles, knees, hips. There's lots of other stretches we can do. Another one I love is like stretching up here and then coming down, which is good for like the hips and also your whole of your spine. So let's just do that now, and we'll make that the last one. So you're straining your hands in front of your chest and stretching up. Oh, the ceiling is very low where I am here now. Stretching up and open up your chest. Really open up your chest. And then breathing out and coming down. All the way down, touching toes with your legs straight. Breathing in, coming up. And opening up your chest. Big breath in, open your chest. And then again down, breathing out. And then stretching up, we'll do one more. Open up, open up. Really open up your chest. And then last one down, breathing out. And then up. Big breath. Okay, exhale. Okay, hopefully that will make you feel a bit more comfy. In future, we'll make those stretches slightly longer. Okay, I'm going to bring the camera back now. Okay. I'm using my laptop, but I've got another old clip-on camera that I used to use for my desktop. Okay. Just change the angle on this here. Whoa. Where are we? As you can see, I'm very high budget here. Not. Okay. Maybe I'm looking into getting maybe a better camera. Okay. So it's about 10, 11, 10, 12. So let's just sit for a second. Oh, we've got another couple of comments here. Hey Tia, hi everyone, good morning. Hi Tia, nice to see you. I guess you're coming in from Indonesia. And okay. And then, whoop, scrolling down. Okay, nice to see you. Glad you can join us. So let's just sit. You don't need to call it a meditation. We're just going to sit quietly, get yourself comfy. We'll be talking about meditation posture later, so don't worry, we'll get to that. We've got a whole 8 classes. Today's just the first one, remember? And we're just going to sit quietly. You might want to close your eyes and just reflect on these 5 points that we've covered today, remember? So we've got our 5 prerequisites, and just reflect and like, have I got these 5 lined up? If I don't, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to fulfill these? So again, just remember, first one is what? Sila, so our ethics. If you're already Buddhist and you've already taken say 5 precepts, you can use that model. If not, you might just think, oh, am I doing things that are creating strife in my life? What should I do about that? Second one, food and clothing. Am I eating healthily? Am I eating properly? Do I spend too much time dealing with food and clothing and things? Can I simplify it? Where am I? What's my living environment? Do I have a meditation space? Can I create a little meditation space? You don't need much, like not even a square meter. Create a little area. Create that space. Am I too busy with unnecessary things that are detracting from my spiritual practice? Can I pare some of those away, simplify my life? Or maybe just reorganize things to create more space. And last one, the company I keep. If you've got a Dharma community, that's good. We can always strengthen those as well. And if we don't, places that we can kind of reach out and contact people. Okay, we've got somebody kicking in here from Singapore. GW, welcome. Glad you can join us. Nice to see some people also from down in Singapore. Hope you're doing well down there. Okay, so as I said, we're just going to sit quietly. The live stream is going to look really boring at this point because I'm just going to be sitting here with my eyes closed. So you don't have to look at me, just close your eyes too. And then we're going to come back in, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes and then we can have some Q&A in the meantime. Okay, I'm going to take my glasses off too, which will mean I can't see the clock. So I have no idea what time it is. Okay. Now I've got a little bell bowl here that I'm going to use to signal the start of the sitting session. Okay, so sit comfortably, make sure you're ready, and then we'll begin. Take a deep breath in. Slowly exhale. Just rock your body gently side to side. Bring our attention from internal contemplation back to the external world. Forward and back. Stretch your neck. Roll your shoulders. You can warm up the palms of your hands. Cover over your eyes. Massage around your eyes. Up to the forehead. Through to the temples, the cheeks. Down the cheeks to the chin. And your ears from top to bottom. Pulling on the earlobes. And the back of the neck. Okay, come on with the hands again. And then start on the shoulders, down the arms, chest, down to the stomach, and then the lower back. If you like, you can then gently unfold your legs. And you can't see here, you can just unfold your legs, just slowly. A bit of a move around, a bit of a rub down, a bit of a massage, briefly around your knees and your ankles. Okay. Right. Now, I know that was a bit of a very short session there, but it will be longer in future because today is just the first class, and because we're dealing with the prerequisites for meditation, so it's a lot of sort of material before we start the practice, and in subsequent weeks we will be getting step by step into that content. So that's kind of the whole idea. We're going to be using this very classic Chinese text, which is really based on Indian forms of... Hey there. Okay, so this is just a new live. This is a new live session. This is the last one finished. So we were just having some Q&A in the dialog box. And I've just posted the link for this one and the last one. So I'm not sure why it cut out. It may be the connection. The original session was scheduled to finish at 10:30. So I think at 10:30 it ended the live video, but it had cut out, the video had cut out earlier, but it hadn't ended live. So what I think I'm going to do in the future, at least, is one, I'm going to schedule them longer. So even if we say 9 till 10:30 is the class, but I'm going to schedule it in Facebook for like longer so we can still go a bit over time. And another thing is I really need to try to learn some of these like external apps that I can then plug in here, and I think it's going to give me much more just other sorts of functionality, and I think I can set up some kind of backup line in case the first one drops, and then I can pick it up somewhere else. So I'm going to be looking into that in the next week. Yeah, okay. If you have now flipped over to this new live stream, can you just like drop a line in the message there? I just kind of, I don't know if I'm talking to myself or anyone's now watching. I'm just going to message this in the message box myself. Yeah. So there are a couple of questions. The first question was from Naria about meditating on bed. So yeah, beds can be comfy because they're softer, nice thick cushions, One thing to watch though, with if you're like what you're sitting on, like a bed or a mattress, is too soft, what will happen is because when you sit on like a hard floor, okay, so Mika's here and Nathaniel's here. So when you sit on a hard floor, um, with a cushion like under your butt to support your butt, your knees are just like on the floor. They're not going to go any lower. And then your butt's going to be on the floor too and a bit above it. But when you sit on something very soft, because most of your weight's on your buttocks, because it was like your whole upper body, and so your butt will sink lower than your knees. It'll tend to make your knees kind of come up and your lower body go down, and that kind of angle isn't so good because it makes your butt lower than your knees. You really almost the angle from your knees. So I'm doing these actions, you can't see them. Um, the angle from your knees to your hip, you want your knees like lower than your hips. That will make your pelvis roll forward and then your back will come up straight. And if your knees are higher, it'll make your pelvis roll back and your lower back will slouch. So if you are sitting on a bed, then you definitely need something under your buttocks to get your buttocks higher, because your knees won't sink much into the mattress, but your butt will sink much further because that's where all the weight is. So if you are using the bed, try to do that. Sometimes beds tend to be a bit harder around the edge and softer in the middle. So if you like sit with to like maybe the foot of your bed and then your butt on that side, it'll be a bit better. So it's not too bad. It's not ideal. The other issue with using your bed for meditation is you tend to associate like your bed and your bedroom with sleep. And so your mindset will be, oh, this is sleep time. And that's not really what you want for a meditation. But it doesn't take much. Even if you just can sit a cushion on the floor next to your bed, it will have a bit of a difference. And then you can do something kind of like what I've got here. If you've got like a bit of wall space, I mean, this is just like a wardrobe door that's clear. You can just like face that. It's something that's non-distracting. This is kind of a bit like Japanese Sotoshu Zen style. Something blank in front of you, so you're not being distracted by visual objects that make your mind go in certain directions and distract you from whatever it is you're meditating on. And that shouldn't be too hard to find a space like in your bedroom, or anywhere, but like your bedroom, where you just got a blank bit of wall and you've got like less than a square meter, and you can just put like a little mat on the floor, a little cushion under your butt, and just meditate there. Okay. Any other questions? Please fire your comments in here. Okay, I see there's no more questions in the original link. There's a comment from Elena, just to say it's a good time. It's a good time for her there. I'm guessing she's in like California, Santa Monica or somewhere. If you think it's a good time for you, just, if you've got any other friends in the area who want to tune in. I kind of partly chose this time because I do know like a lot of friends in North America that might want to tune in. It means, unfortunately, those in Europe, it's probably like 3 in the morning or something. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. Where are you, Nathaniel? Where are you based at the moment? Is it getting near your midnight at the moment? Okay, and a question from Nathaniel. Closing your eyes versus softening your gaze, which is better? Ideally, having your eyes open, because what that means is you're training to, okay, so the difference being like with your eyes fully closed, so you're not being stimulated by visual objects, versus just kind of having your eyes slightly open. You're not focusing on something, you're not looking at something, but you're not closing your eyes. So the difference being that when you, Connecticut, what time is it where you are, my friend? Like midnight or something? You're doing midnight meditation on Facebook live stream. Yeah, this is Friday night. Friday night, COVID-19, meditation in the time of coronavirus. Not much else to do, huh? So if your eyes are open, you do tend to get distracted by other objects, but it keeps you more present in where you are. You're present, you're here. I'm sitting here looking at the floor or looking at a wall or what have you. Whereas when your eyes are closed, you don't get distracted, but it's much easier for your 10:42 where you are. Okay. But it's much more easy for the mind to then wander. And, when you close your eyes and you start thinking about this and that and kind of leaving your present time and space where you are. So this is why a lot of people will say it's best to have your eyes slightly open, because it helps you to then take that meditative state into your daily life. Because you're meditating with your eyes closed, very present, very real, right here, right now. And then when you're doing things in daily life, likewise, your eyes are open and here's the world in front of you. But I think, so apart from that, one thing is also, if you find with your eyes open you get distracted a lot, then try closing them. If you find that with your eyes closed you daydream more, then try opening them. And then someone's going to say, well, what if when I open them I get distracted, and when I close them I start daydreaming? What do I do then? Yes. Try one or the other. Stick with one. Just stick with one. No one has perfect meditation to begin with anyway. So, distractions are going to happen. So don't think that if you're distracted, you're somehow failing and you're doing it wrong. Just keep working at it. It's not a get enlightenment quick scheme. It's a long, slow practice that needs to be done very regularly. We're talking about years, decades. And either way that you do it will still get you good results. So don't think that either of these is wrong. It might just be that one of them is slightly more useful for you. Okay, so Nathaniel, I hope that kind of answers your question there. Anyone else? Tia, any questions? Mika, anyone else? Okay. If not, our time's a bit up anyway. Originally, I just wanted to do it an hour and a half. It's an hour 45 now. I'd just like to say a very big thank you for everyone who has tuned in and watched. Okay, Nathaniel, good stuff. Okay, Mika. If you do have any questions later on, yeah, just post them on the streams or somewhere in the Bodhi Tree group. Try to. I know a lot of you probably are also friends with my own Facebook account, but if you've got questions, maybe put them here. It just keeps everything kind of together, and because it's not just for us here now, but also in the future. Hopefully we can slowly just build up a nice collection of teachings and whatever here, and lots of Q&A, and then in the future other people can access them and learn from them too. So just want to say thank you all for coming along. I have no idea how many people were there in total. I hope you can join us again next week. It'll just be the same time, same place. That we'll be doing the next one, and we're going to be doing 8 sessions in total. So it's all on the same basic theme, calm and insight. We're going to be using the same text in subsequent chapters. We'll just start each session by reading the text and just going over that basic material, do a bit of stretching, and then some meditation and Q&A. Okay, Terry, how many of you? So Terry there is kind of also coordinating with her group there in the Philippines. So don't know how many people you've got over there, but I hope you found some value in that. And if anyone's got any questions, just feel free to fire them on over. And of course, if you found it valuable and you have any friends who you think might also benefit from them, please let it know. I do realize that at the moment with this COVID-19, there's a lot more like Dharma teachings and stuff online. Okay, Tina, I feel very refreshed. Okay, good. Well, more next week because today was very short. And so wherever you are, I know some of you are in places which are, not in a good situation. So please stay safe, everyone. I know you also want to go out there and help other people, and we're all going to be doing that. But look after yourself in that process and don't put yourself in harm's way um, while you're trying to help others. We can always keep contact. You know, they use this term social isolation. Um, it's physical isolation, but we don't have to be socially isolated. We can still totally like communicate online and calls and video chat and FaceLine and all this kind of stuff. Uh, is totally fine. So, you know, keep in touch with people, look after each other, and all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, and that includes nasty viruses as well. Humanity will get through this. It's not pleasant and not fun, and hopefully we'll learn from it and be wiser and make changes in the way we personally live and the way in which we also organize our societies. And we'll grow from it. So, you know, keep the positive thoughts going, realistic positive thoughts, not kind of wishful, fanciful positive thoughts. But if we can support each other, we can get through this and see better times in the future. It's been great to see you all. I haven't seen many of you in the flesh for a long, long time. So it's good to see you online. Hopefully some point we can set it up so I can see you as well, but maybe for a future time. So take care, and I'll see you all again next week. Same time, same channel. Okay, bye-bye.